All three of the figures in the image were facing the camera. However, ever since the twins had realized the truth, they had deliberately started to wear face masks wherever they went in the hallways to prevent anyone from discovering the truth. The camera's resolution was also very low, so it was impossible to differentiate between the children right away. Nora hesitated for a moment, then pointed to one of them and said, "This one could be Pete." Nora scoffed and said, "That's my daughter." To be honest, both of them are exactly the same height, and their mannerisms are also identical, she thought. Very peculiar. I only recognize Cherry because of the Spider-Man outfit she's wearing. Unconvinced, Justin asked, "Are you sure? I can't tell which is which." He fixed his fierce gaze on the image of Chester instead. Nora said sarcastically, "That seems to be your younger brother, Mr. Hunt." Outside the door, three heads were lined up sideways, their ears pressed against the door as they quietly listened to the sounds in the room. The commotion inside the room intrigued them all. Cherry and Pete looked at Chester. "Uncle Chester, what are Mummy and Daddy doing? Are they tearing down the place?" Chester replied triumphantly, "They're fighting with each other. It's not something that children need to understand. In any case, their relationship will definitely improve after they're done fighting." Cherry was a little worried. She asked, "Is the fight supposed to be this intense?" Chester raised an eyebrow and answered, "Of course. Lives may even be at stake here. The two of you are the result of one of the fights they had in the past." Cherry was confused. She frowned and asked, "But what if Mummy beats Daddy up so badly that he breaks?" Pete felt anger towards his father. "How can Daddy fight with a woman? That's so wrong. No wonder he can't impress Mummy and make her want to marry him." Chester was amused by the children. Little did he know how wrong he was in his assumptions about Nora and Justin's activities. He continued to listen to the sounds in the room for a while, with great interest, and was secretly impressed. Justin is Justin, after all. They're sure going at it in there. The sound stopped soon after. Chester pressed his ear harder against the door and asked in a low voice, "I can't help but feel bad helping you guys hide the truth from Justin. When are you going to tell him?" Cherry was clever and quick-witted, but she didn't have a firm opinion on this. She looked at her brother for guidance. Pete pursed his lips and answered, "I'll tell him everything after Mummy cures Great-Grandma's illness." He'd thought about it very clearly. Keeping this a secret was disrespectful to their parents, especially when their mum was still searching all over the world for him and going through unimaginable worry. If they don't fall in love with each other, even after they've spent the next few days together, then I won't try to force them anymore, he decided. Just as Chester was about to reply, the door shook violently. Someone was banging on it from inside. A furious voice came from within the door. "Chester, open this door right now." Chester quickly opened the metal padlock. Justin stormed out of the room looking angrier than ever. He took Pete and Chester upstairs. Nora didn't care how he was going to punish Chester. She was sitting on the sofa staring at Cherry. She asked sternly, "Why did you do that, Cherry?" Cherry hung her head and stared at her fingers, so intimidated that she dare not speak. Nora softened her tone and asked, "Do you want me to get together with Justin Hunt?" Cherry nodded. She tried to explain without revealing the real secret. "Mummy, if you convinced Justin, to become your husband, how impressive would it be when you go out together? He's so handsome and rich. Don't you want that?" Nora looked at her daughter with concern. She rubbed her temples and asked, "Whose lousy idea was this?" Cherry sold her uncle out without hesitation. Chester's. Upstairs, Chester looked at Justin, who was sitting on the sofa seriously with trepidation. He swallowed and said, "Justin, I meant well. You haven't been with a woman for so many years. I don't get how you haven't gone completely crazy." He was so frightened that his legs felt like jelly. He clamped them together as he listened to his brother's reply. "What were you thinking? You weren't, of course. As punishment, no living expenses for you for 6 months. His words stunned Chester, who blurted out, "That's it." I was expecting far worse. I thought he'd have me completely cut off because I plotted against him. If I were anyone else, He'd have made sure to completely destroy me, he thought, relieved. Justin raised an eyebrow. What, do you think I'm being too lenient? Chester immediately started backpedaling anxiously. He replied, No, of course not. 6 months without living expenses? How am I going to buy game credits? Can't get any worse than that. He fled, and Justin leaned back against the sofa. He let his mind return to the memory of holding Nora's shoulders downstairs and kissing her. He touched his mouth. I can still feel the smooth sensation of her lips on mine. He also remembered when the bath towel had suddenly dropped. Nope, I didn't see anything. Nothing at all. The next day, Nora got Mrs. Lewis to pack their belongings early in the morning. They went to the airport at noon. When they'd found out that Nora was going to New York with Justin, Simon and Melissa had decided to take the same flight. When they got there, Simon would be transferred to NYC General Hospital. The standard of medical care there was much better than in California. It was only when they arrived at the airport that Nora discovered they were actually taking a private jet. Melissa was impressed. She remarked with a sigh, Private jets have to be scheduled in advance. It takes a lot of organization. For Justin to have arranged all this so quickly is impressive. The Hunts sure are living up to their reputation as a super influential family. Nora's eyes flickered a little awkwardly at the mention of Justin. She soon saw exactly how meticulous he was. He'd arranged a private room for her on the plane that had a large, comfortable bed, so her sleeping needs would be fully met. She slept the whole way to New York. On arrival, Melissa went home with Cherry and the luggage, while Nora and the hospital staff who'd come to pick them up accompanied Simon and Justin to the hospital. When they got there, Nora helped Simon to settle down in the VIP ward first. Then she went to the ICU to find Justin and his grandmother. Justin had sent Nora Mrs. Hunt's medical records back in California itself when she had agreed to treat her. Nora didn't want to waste any time. The day she saved the elderly lady's life would be the day that she would get her son back. She wanted to go over and take a look so she could schedule the surgery as soon as possible. She hadn't expected to hear urgent beeping coming from the heart rate monitor inside the ICU the moment she reached the door. Out in the hallway, some of the Hunts from Howard's side of the family were confronting Justin and Pete. Pete, who was wearing a mask and a cap, was looking toward the ward anxiously. Justin's uncle was pointing at Pete and yelling, You jinx! Your great-grandma went into critical condition the moment you came back. Now she won't be able to get the surgery even if we do find Athena. It's too late. Pete's eyes reddened as he clenched his tiny fists. Great-grandma, you have to hold on. Justin frowned, concern etched in his face. She was in a stable condition. Why had she suddenly deteriorated so quickly? The shrill beeping alarms continued. A sharp voice reached them from inside the ICU ward. We're losing her! The place was in chaos. The sounds of doctors and nurses administering emergency medical treatment could be heard coming from inside the ward. Mom! Grandma! Great-grandma! Justin's uncle's family burst into tears. All of them were distraught. Shut up! Justin barked fiercely, causing their sobs to stop abruptly. Justin's uncle, Raymond Hunt, immediately said reproachfully, Just because you're cold and heartless, Justin, doesn't mean we can't be upset. You can't forbid... Justin shot him a glare and snapped, Grandma isn't dead. Raymond was so frightened by him that the words he'd been about to utter stuck in his throat. Everyone stared at Justin. He pressed his lips together and looked over the ward. Pete started to tremble. He was usually smart and quick for his age, but he was at a loss now. He felt scared and helpless. As if sensing his son's panic, Justin placed a large hand on his shoulder. Pete felt its warmth and gradually calmed down. He saw Justin looking down at him. His rich voice was soothing as he said, Don't be scared, Pete. Pete's eyes reddened again and he nodded. Nora had walked over to join them at the ward. She glanced at Pete. Because she'd needed to sleep on the plane, she'd stayed inside her room with Cherry the whole time and hadn't interacted with Justin and his son. Now that she was so close to Pete, she realized that his physique really was very similar to Cherry's. She wanted to observe him a little more, but the sounds in the ward caught her attention. When Justin noticed that she hadn't entered the ward yet, his heart sank. Even she thinks Grandma is doomed. His voice was very low. For the first time, there was helplessness and pleading in it. He said, "Miss Smith, please." However, before he could finish speaking, Nora entered the ward. NYC General Hospital was indeed worthy of its reputation as the best hospital in the country. It boasted the best conditions for medical care in the States, from the highest quality equipment to exceptionally well-trained and professional doctors and nurses. The team worked on Justin's grandmother were organized and efficient as they tried to save their patient. Prepare to apply shock. 200 volts. Stand clear. Mrs. Hunt's heart finally started beating again, and the doctors and nurses breathed a collective sigh of relief. Nora, however, frowned. She'd studied the patient's data carefully. Something doesn't feel right. Dr. Tina York, the physician in charge of Mrs. Hunt's care, had been part of the emergency rescue efforts. She took off her mask, revealing a bright, attractive face underneath. Her voice was calm and steady as she provided an update on her patient's condition. "Mr. Hunt, your grandmother's body is already at its limit. The cardiac arrest she's suffered has caused multiple organ failures. If she doesn't wake up soon, I'm afraid there won't be much more we can do." Justin frowned and asked, "Dr. York, we thought she was stable. Why did this suddenly happen?" At his question, Tina frowned and sighed. She replied, "Your grandmother is 80 years old. Her body is no longer as healthy as it was before." Justin looked at Nora and asked, "Should we proceed with the surgery immediately?" "No, you mustn't." Tina shook her head before Nora could reply. Her voice was mild and gentle as she spoke, but she sounded confident and reliable. "Mrs. Hunt is too weak at the moment. We've only just managed to stabilize her. If she undergoes surgery now, we risk the operation doing further harm." Nora didn't speak. She was carefully observing the patient. Mrs. Hunt's eyes were closed. She was thin, and her face was covered in wrinkles. There was barely any sign of life in her as she lay on the bed. "She's certainly in an extremely weak state, but if we don't get the surgery done, the blood clot in her brain will impede circulation for a prolonged period. The chances of her waking up will become increasingly low." While she was thinking, another quarrel broke out outside the door. Raymond and his family had also heard what Tina had said. Infuriated, Raymond exclaimed, "Does that mean my mother is doomed? What did she ever do to deserve this? We told her that boy Justin brought back was a bad apple, but she refused to believe us and insisted on keeping him by her side. And it all ended up with him pushing her down the stairs. He might as well have killed her." Raymond was 55 years old. He looked thin but was surprisingly energetic. He had a shrewd look in his eyes that came from many years of life experience. His son, Roger, had the Hunt family trait of deep-set eyes. However, the look in them wasn't as deep and unfathomable as Justin's. He was usually smiling or up to some kind of mischief or other. He sighed and choked on his sobs as he said, "Don't say that, Dad. Pete's not like other kids. He didn't mean to do it. He never would have wanted to hurt his great-grandma." There was a boy on their side of the family in the same generation as Pete. His name was Freddie, and he was overweight. His eyes were barely visible in his chubby cheeks. Freddie suddenly rushed up to Pete, curled his hand up into a fist, and sent it flying towards Pete's face fiercely. "What did you do, you murderer? Freak?" Justin was just about to ask Nora for her expert opinion after hearing what Tina had said. "I can't believe that such a critical moment, my uncle and his family are ignoring Grandma's condition and starting to attack Pete again. What's their problem?" Then he saw Freddie about to punch Pete in the face. Justin lost it. He couldn't restrain the anger he'd been suppressing anymore. He reached out and pushed Freddie to the ground as fast as he could. The nudge caused Freddie to slide across the ground. Justin hadn't pushed him too hard, so he didn't suffer any real injury, but the pain made him burst into tears. He scrambled over to Raymond and hid behind him. "Save me, Grandpa. Uncle Justin's trying to kill me." Raymond turned on Justin, shouting angrily, "Justin, what are you doing?" Anger sparked in Justin's eyes. His voice was cold and ruthless as he said, If you can't keep your grandson in check, then I'll do it for you. Raymond yelled, "Why don't you keep your own son in check first? He's caused your grandmother's death. That is absolutely unforgivable." Justin took a step forward imposingly and said, "Pete didn't kill anyone. She isn't dead, and he says he didn't push her. I trust him." Roger stood between Justin and the others. He sighed gently and said, "Justin, trust makes no difference. It's no use. It's obvious from the living room security camera footage that Pete pushed her. We've already given the footage to Grandpa, and it's been decided. They're holding a family meeting this week, and they're going to expel Pete from the family." Justin was distressed. How can we possibly get Pete off the hook? The servants testified that he argued with Grandma, and there's video footage. They'll say it's fundamental evidence that supports their accusation. The camera was angled in such a way that the video only showed everything from the back. In the video, Grandma was falling and Pete's arms were outstretched behind her. It really does look like Pete pushed her, but he says he didn't, and I believe my son, always. Roger's right, though. What use is that? They've got both witness testimonials and material evidence. There's only one option left now, and that's to save Grandma. When she regains consciousness, she'll tell everyone what really happened. She's the only person who can prove Pete's innocence. Pete stayed hard at the door to his grandmother's room. He didn't hear the others reprimanding him. The only thing he cared about was his great-grandmother's survival. Seeing the elderly lady lying motionless, his eyes filled with tears. He rushed into the ward, hugged Nora's leg, and pleaded, "Mummy, save great-grandma."
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.